Hey everyone, have you ever wondered when a company breaks the law, who is actually responsible? Can a company which exists only as a legal entity really commit a crime or enter into a contract on its own? Or is it always the directors, managers, or employees pulling the strings? Today, we are diving into the concept of rules of attribution in company law, a set of legal principles that determine who speaks for a company and when their actions or knowledge are attributed to the company itself. We'll break this down in an engaging, easy to understand way, covering what rules of attribution are and why they exist, and explore the landmark case of Meridian Global Funds and Securities Commission, real-life scenarios to illustrate how these rules apply, and a commentary on why they matter today. Understanding these rules can literally mean the difference between a company walking free or being held liable for fraud, corruption, or even crimes. A company is a legal entity. It exists on paper, but it cannot think, it cannot talk, or make decisions by itself. Unlike humans, it has no mind, no physical body, and no moral compass. So how do we decide when a company's actions, knowledge, or intentions are recognized in law? That's where the rules of attribution come in. These rules help courts determine when and how the actions of individuals like directors, managers, or employees are legally treated as the actions of the company itself. The origins of these rules lie in two key legal principles. First, the concept that companies are separate legal entities was famously established in the case of Salomon and Salomon. I did an earlier video, the link is below. This means a company is legally distinct from its owners and directors. Second principle, the need for fairness and commercial practicality requires clear attribution rules so that companies can function efficiently while ensuring they do not escape liability by claiming that a wrongful act was done by a single employee without the company's knowledge. To illustrate how these rules operate, we turn to the landmark case of Meridian Global Funds Management and Securities Commission. In the early 1990s, Meridian Global Funds Management was an investment company that managed money on behalf of investors. One of its investment managers secretly used the company's money to buy shares in another company without the approval or knowledge of Meridian's top executives or board of directors. The New Zealand Securities Commission took action, arguing that Meridian had failed to disclose this shareholding, which was required under securities law. However, the company's top executives were unaware of the transaction, and the manager who made the purchase had no explicit authority to do so on behalf of Meridian. The question before the court was whether Meridian itself could be held responsible for the failure to disclose the shareholding. The case reached all the way to the UK Privy Council, where Lord Hoffman delivered a judgment that clarified the rules of attribution. He established that attribution rules fall into three main categories. Primary rules of attribution are those written into the company's constitution, which define who can act on behalf of the company. General rules of attribution apply when the primary rules are not sufficient, relying on common law or statutory principles to determine whether a person's actions should be attributed to the company. Special rules of attribution apply in cases where liability is imposed by law, even when neither the primary or general rules would typically apply. Lord Hoffman ruled that the investment manager's knowledge should be attributed to Meridian under the general rules of attribution, making the company responsible for the failure to disclose the shareholding. This case became a defining moment in company law because it demonstrated that courts will consider the context when determining whether an action or knowledge should be attributed to a company. To make this more relatable, consider three examples. In the first scenario, a company's constitution states that only the board of directors can sign off on major loans. A junior manager secretly borrows $10 million from a bank in the company's name. Later, the company refuses to repay, claiming it never approved the loan. Under the primary rules of attribution, the manager was not authorized to enter into the loan and the bank may not be able to enforce it against the company. In the second scenario, a finance manager intentionally submits false tax returns on behalf of a company to evade taxes. The CEO later claims he had no idea about this. However, since the finance manager had actual control over financial reporting, under the general rules of attribution, their actions are binding on the company. The company will be held liable for tax fraud. In the third scenario, a pharmaceutical company sells a dangerous drug without disclosing known health risks. It later comes to light that middle-level researchers knew about these risks, but the board of directors did not. Can the company claim ignorance to avoid penalties? Under special rules of attribution, the company cannot escape liability. The knowledge of the researchers is attributed to the company under public safety laws, making it responsible for failing to disclose the risks. The rules of attribution are crucial in modern company law. They prevent businesses from hiding behind employees while still allowing fairness in liability. These rules strike a balance. They ensure companies are not unfairly blamed for rogue employees, but they also prevent companies from escaping accountability when key decision makers act improperly. With today's corporate scandals from Wirecard to FTX, these rules have never been more important. Thanks for joining me in today's video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.